Let's bring in Chris Stigall.
He is Chris Stigall.
Chris Stigall.
I'm joined now by Chris Stigall,
host of the Chris Stigall Show.
So let's bring in talk radio host Chris Stigall.
Also, his podcast is a must-listen every day. Chris Stigall Show podcast.
And host of the Chris Stigall Show.
Let's bring in Chris Stigall.
Please welcome Chris Stigall.
The Chris Stigall podcast is presented by usmedicalplan.com. Save big money monthly and get better health coverage at usmedicalplan.com.
Well, hey there. Welcome into the Chris Stigall Show podcast. Thanks a lot for downloading this. And if I could be so bold as to ask a quick favor, I don't do this often, but if you have a second, do you mind, if you're an Apple Podcast consumer or you're a Spotify user, could you leave a written review and a 5-star review of this podcast? It helps others learn about it and spread the good word. We're so appreciative. And thanks a lot for choosing this show, as you do each and every day, consistently making this one of the top-performing news commentary podcasts out there in the universe of all there is to choose from these days. And I thank our sponsor now for years, John Ruhlman, who has been basically the principal sponsor of this show and has helped so many of you in this audience, most importantly. The reason I love doing business with John and the team at U.S. Medical Plan is because they really help people in this audience. I'm not just talking about people that I've heard from through email. I'm talking about people in my own life. Colleagues of mine, friends of mine, my own parents. I sent my parents to John and his team when they were looking for supplemental insurance with their Medicare. John saved them $400 a month. That's my senior parents, all right? I have a personal friend who had a daughter with some special health needs. He was spending tons of money a month on private health insurance for them. John got him a better plan, saved him $1,000 a month. I have colleagues that have saved hundreds of dollars a month. If you're a small business owner and you supply insurance for your employees, that's a generous thing to do. Is it really expensive? And you're thinking, maybe I can't do it anymore? Wait. Call John. Reach out to his team. They shop with 100 different private health insurers all over the country. If you're an Obamacare user, that is not getting any cheaper this year. I can already tell you it's going to go up, up, up. There are private health insurance companies out there that have much lower rates than you think and cover everything that you need. I know people assume if it's cheaper, it means less coverage. Not necessarily. Or it may be that you have the best coverage going, but you're not going to know until you reach out. Please turn to the team at usmedicalplan.com, usmedicalplan.com, or give them a call today, 877-410-4321. That's 877-410-4321 or usmedicalplan.com. Good to be with you, folks. Welcome in on this, the midweek edition of the Stigall Show. Glad you're with us wherever you happen to be, whether you're listening on great radio stations like AM 990 The Answer in Philadelphia, our flagship station, or whether you are on one of our hundreds of affiliates all over the country. We're so thrilled to have you along. Growing by leaps and bounds, this show. I am thrilled. Somebody was asking me the other day if they could hear me, and they were asking me how many states this show could be heard in. And I said, in some form or fashion, obviously, thanks to the Salem News Channel and streaming, that all changes everything. But in some form or fashion, we're now broadcast receptive on all 50 states of the map. If you didn't know that, you can find us that way in traditional broadcast. But if you are looking to stream us and you haven't started doing that yet, the great way to do this, it's easy, it's free. You can get the Salem News Channel app and you can watch the show and listen to it wherever you go, as long as there's internet. Can't do anything for you if you're out in the sticks or something and there's no internet. But anyway, glad to have you along here. Our telephone number is 855-STIGALL. If you want to get in here, is President Trump delivering on his promises? Answer, yes. He's not doing anything that surprises anyone. He's delivering and doing exactly what he said he was going to do. The vaudevillian over at CNN confirms it. Let's go, Paulie. Number 84 to kick it off. Here they are at CNN reminding everybody, you may not like it, but nobody's surprised. He's not doing a rope-a-dope here. He's doing what he ran on and won on. Listen.
Is Trump doing what he promised in the 2024 campaign? Yes, 52%. The majority of Americans say that Donald Trump is doing what he promised compared to 48% who said no. So what essentially is going on here is the voters expected all of this from Donald Trump. The majority did, and that is why his favorable rating, simply put, has not really moved all that much compared to where it was a year ago. Trump is basically doing what the American people thought that he was going to do. Indeed, if you look at the numbers, Trump has basically the steadiest favorable rating this much through a presidency of any president on record.
Well, now, you wouldn't know that, would you? With all of the ridiculous nonsense you're hearing, and we went through this yesterday about authoritarianism and whatnot. It's not authoritarianism. It's restoring order to what was an extraordinary authoritarianism that we lived under in what was a third term of Barack Obama. I laid all that out yesterday, but let's talk about what is happening. All right, we haven't really done that, and I don't want to get distracted from actually pointing out where the agenda is winning and on offense here. This shutdown, for instance, proof positive that Republicans are winning it and Democrats are not. They're starting to get very, very prickly because President Trump is reminding folks, I don't want to be the one to have to withhold your pay here. It's the Democrats that are willing to withhold your pay, men and women who keep us safe, because they want to fund illegal alien health insurance. Republicans eyeing the end of the week as a pivotal pressure point in their campaign to persuade Democrats to end the shutdown. Remember, that's what they're holding out for. They want subsidies for illegals and six-figure earners for Obamacare. That's what they want. They want to make sure we have a robust federal health insurance program that pays for everybody. Again, cradle to grave. The Democrats' game is to grow government as big as they possibly can, make everyone dependent on it, grow a social welfare system that is so huge no one can do anything unless government is doing it for them. That's what they want to create. It's a government version of what Mad Manny wants to create in New York City. That's what they're holding out for. The Republicans have tried to claw that back, scale it back. Democrats are saying, no, we want it to grow, we want to expand it, and we're going to shut the government down until we get our way. Republicans aren't budging off of it, and Mike Johnson continues to hammer Schumer on this, as does Trump and the Republicans at large. Listen to number 86 here in Speaker Johnson, just taking it to Schumer on this thing.
Leader Schumer's record, because he is leading the opposition and he is the one telling the Democrats to keep the government shut down. Chuck Schumer has been in Congress for 44 years. He was first elected to the House in 1981. Just for reference, I was 9 years old. I was in the third grade when Chuck Schumer came here to Congress. Throughout his entire career, he has been very, very consistent about the necessity of keeping the government open until just now. In fact, I want to read to you an excerpt from 7 months ago, his floor speech on March 13th, 2025. This is Senator Chuck Schumer in March of this year. Quote, on the Senate floor, while the CR bill is very bad, the potential for a shutdown has consequences for America that are much, much worse. I believe it is my job to make the best choice for the country to minimize the harms of the American people. Therefore, I will vote to keep the government open and not shut it down, unquote. Now, what was Chuck Schumer talking about? The exact same bill that is on the floor today. That's what he himself said. And he did vote to keep the government open. And then, during an interview with Jake Tapper on CNN following that vote, on March 14th of this year, he said, quote, I'm proud I did it. I know I did the right thing, unquote. That is Chuck Schumer himself. Today's the exact same scenario. It is the exact same vote. It is the exact same spending levels. And he has no reason whatsoever to do anything different, except for the politics. So that's fact number two. Fact number one was Schumer's record. Fact number two is his calculation today. It is purely about politics. He is recognizing the reality of the political winds changing in the state of New York. As I mentioned yesterday, they are likely to elect a Marxist to be the mayor of New York City, and Chuck Schumer is terrified by that. He's been in Congress a long, long time, and he is not the flavor of the day. He's not far enough left for the Marxist, and he knows he's going to get a challenge from his left flank.
I think this is one of the more brilliant things I've seen out of Speaker Johnson yet. Do you know what he just did there? Trump is doing it too. The Republicans have boxed in Schumer to such a degree. I have never seen such strategic messaging from Republicans in my life. It excites the hell out of me, frankly. This is the calculated stuff Democrats typically do. You know what Johnson just did? He reminded everybody of Chuck Schumer's vote to keep the government open earlier in the year and why the Democrats hated his guts for it. Did you catch that? You may not have. He was trying to, in his subtle way, make it sound like I don't know what's changed. I mean, Chuck Schumer voted to keep the government open and told Jake Tapper back in March he was proud to keep the government open. You know what Johnson did there? He's reminding the American left, who hates Schumer already, of why they hate him so much. This is what he's doing today and why he's holding this entire government hostage from reopening, because he's trying to look like he's, quote, opposing Trump, battling Trump. That CR that he voted for earlier in the year, he's still paying for. He is under attack, it is true, from his left flank. And so now he's trying to show that he's big and tough, and it's too late. I mean, they're mocking him over at The Daily Show. Horrible mockery this week from Jon Stewart, and how completely inept he looks. I mean, they're outright mocking him as old and out of touch. Called him a human flat tire. So the guy's losing. The Senate Democrats are losing this fight, and the Republicans haven't budged an inch. They're not caving. I don't see any evidence to suggest they're willing to budge off of this even a little bit. In fact, so Trump then steps in, and you know what he does? He reminds, first of all, that military folks may not get their paychecks much longer if Democrats don't give in on this thing. The president's deadline for implementing layoffs is roughly the time Congress has to act to reopen the government so the active duty military members don't miss their next paycheck on October 15th. We played for you earlier in the week Trump telling Navy members not to worry about delayed paychecks. I want you all to know that despite the Democrat shutdown, we will get our service members every last penny. Don't worry about it. It's all coming. But he's reminding everybody that if you don't start getting your paychecks, it's Chuck Schumer's fault. Meanwhile, the White House says all this tariff revenue that we're rolling in, and we are, by the billions. Trump administration saying yesterday they're going to use tariff. This is, again, it excites me because we haven't heard this kind of messaging from Republicans in a long time. Of course, we're not dealing with typical Republicans. This is the Trump era. So it's different. The Trump administration said Tuesday they will use tariff funds to keep afloat federal food assistance programs for nearly 7 million pregnant women. Is this not genius? New moms, young children, during the shutdown, the program known as WIC expected to run out of money as soon as the end of this week, because Congress has yet to approve federal spending packages for the fiscal year of 2026. Caroline Leavitt announcing the idea on X yesterday. Democrats are so cruel in their continual votes to shut down the government that they forced the WIC program for the most vulnerable women and children to run out this week. Thankfully, President Trump and the White House have identified a creative solution to transfer resources from Section 232 tariff revenue to this critical program. So now, even tariffs, which have been, supposedly this big bad thing, are now maybe going to be responsible for saving young pregnant women. Meanwhile, he's sending in military into Chicago and other crime-ravaged cities and bringing crime down, showing that he's the safety president too. This is just he's playing a hot hand, and we're not spending nearly enough time pointing it out. We've never lived in an era where Democrats have been on their heels, not since I've been covering politics, coming up on 30 years now. This is really a remarkable moment in history. Soak it up. They don't come along very often, I have a feeling, for Republicans. More in a minute. How do you do? Good to be with you. Welcome in Cleveland. We're looking at you this morning on the Salem News Channel. Thanks for listening on The Answer in Cleveland, AM 1420, or wherever you happen to be listening. Thanks for streaming the podcast. And welcome to all the new audience members. And I assume there are many. I appreciate what was apparently the talk of Cookville yesterday. I am getting more anti-Semitic traffic on social media than I've ever received in my career, Fast Eddie. It's really quite remarkable. I have to say, there is a hatred for our guest and professional friend. I call him a professional friend because I don't know him personally, but we've had him on the show a number of times, and I've always enjoyed speaking with him. And he's always been very, very insightful as an attorney. And I guess because he happens to be Jewish, this now calls for an all-out assault on him. I'm talking about Josh Hammer, our professional friend and associate on the show, who we've invited on for many, many, many segments on legal counsel, for the most part. We've talked Israel a little bit. Israel in the West is his book. apparently this show yesterday was invoked on a wildly popular podcast who has now made Charlie Kirk's assassination the central focus of that show. And interestingly has concluded that that host is the reason Charlie Kirk was murdered, and Josh Hammer, if you follow. And I'm not really going to spend a bunch of time explaining it because it doesn't really interest me, and the people that listen to that aren't really to be reasoned with or discussed. They don't want to discuss anything. They just want to rage. It's all rage bait. I've discussed this with you. We're in an era where people design their shows as independent islands. As such, they have to make independent islands work, and they have to make them successful, and they have to stand out in a very, very crowded field. I'm blessed in that I have a career of many, many years, and I have an employer in the Salem media conglomerate here that I don't need to do that, Ed. You know, I don't need to concoct wild-eyed stories that a high-profile person was murdered because of me, or inject myself into stories like a heinous assassination. I don't need to assert that guests of this show or any other show are the reason someone else was assassinated or murdered. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that's passing for content out there now, Ed, and I'm sorry to say that there are millions of people who are hungry for it, buy it hook, line, and sinker, love it, and as such are motivated to just spew some of the ugliest stuff you've ever read, my friend. It's bad, really bad.
That's just amazing to me. I didn't know. I knew that the market existed. I just hate that it's on our side now. You know what I mean? Like
I do.
It's terrifying. It's terrible.
I don't think it's. Here's the thing I'm trying to figure out, and I know for a fact it's not this audience. I don't think anybody that listens to this show. In fact, people that are fans of this particular show, and also happens to be, we do have some cross listeners, of course, and I'm well aware of that. And I'm not even really at odds with this particular host. I really had no opinion. Met them a couple of times. Never interested in coming on the show. Incidentally, had been invited on the show. Never interested in coming on the show. But she made her bones on the back of Charlie Kirk. I mean, let's just be honest. This is a woman who became famous because of Charlie and Turning Point. She then became more elevated and more famous because people like Rush Limbaugh talked about her. She then became more elevated and more famous because the Daily Wire and Ben Shapiro and his outfit elevated her. And then things went, I don't know. I don't have a relationship with Ben or anybody at the Daily Wire either, but all I know is what I read, just like everybody else who follows this stuff. She then got crossways with them. And then she kind of goes out on her own and does whatever she does, which is tantamount to just frequent wild speculation with no. We're in an era now where I see people say she's doing journalism, Ed. She's doing journalism. Now, journalism in its classic sense is you follow leads wherever they may take you. You start with the premise of something and you try to. It's like science. Okay, so there's an allegation. I'm going to go now dig and follow the facts wherever they take me. And if I can't find facts that substantiate the thing that kind of started the entire investigation, well then, as a journalist, I have to admit I can't substantiate the claim. That's not what passes for journalism, apparently, for a number of her audience these days. Now what is journalism is, Eddie, when did you stop beating your wife? And you say, what are you talking about? And I say, well, I think we all know. You've got a bit of a temper, and I'm let's just say I've heard things, I know things, and I have reason to believe that there's just some very ugly stuff going on at the house. And that's just all I'll say. It just doesn't sit well with me. This is journalism now, and now it's the impetus is on you see the game, to disprove it. That's now what's passing as programming. And I got to tell you, there are a lot of suckers for it. They love it. Hoover it up, as a matter of fact. Good to have you along, New York, on The Answer, AM 970, and wherever you're listening all over the country. Our telephone number, 855-STIGAL, if you want to get in here today. We're online at chrisstigall.com. I hope you'll go there, follow along on social media, even you haters and trolls. I welcome you aboard. I've kind of enjoyed it. It's been a while since the show has been in the crosshairs of the troll farms. And they are, by the way. It's just hundreds and hundreds. I am seeing in real time And I don't really mean to bore all of you with a bunch of inside baseball that, frankly, a good number, if probably not most of this audience, don't know anything about. But it is something that I just, from time to time, like to pause and remind you of, that platforms like X in particular, I appreciate its free speech. I think it's invaluable. I think everybody should be able to speak freely, even vile stuff. But X is uniquely full of complete bilge and fraudulent bilge at that. The ability for foreign entities and politically active left-wing entities, I suppose on the right too, but what I'm on the receiving end of is undoubtedly foreign and or left-wing, absolutely certain of it, and they can construct artificial presences lightning fast. And so this is how I'm reminded, again, this is not new to me, but I'm reminded of it, and every now and again I have to pause and remind folks who may be new to or casual consumers of social media. The ability today to give you the impression that there is a movement on social media that is not real. Ed, does this make sense? I want to make sure, really sure, that I'm explaining this broadly. I don't want to get in the weeds, but just broadly. You can be given the impression that something is massive online when in fact it's really not. It's artificially created and can be spat out with lightning speed to make things look like they're massive. X is uniquely hardwired as a platform to make it look like lots and lots and lots of people are saying a thing. And then if you get down into the granular and you study it all, you begin to realize that they're all just manufactured accounts. You will know that when you start to open accounts from a bunch of trolls, and you'll see that they have like a follower or no profile whatsoever, or some really ridiculous profile. They're not real people, in other words, Ed. But you can create that scene by the thousands quickly, and it can all be pointed directly at a target and make it look like the universe of social media is coming at you. And it can be, for people that aren't experienced with it or don't know it or aren't familiar with it, it can be very overwhelming. And this stuff used to work, particularly on business. This is how a lot of small business got scared. And Rush Limbaugh was the first guy to really live through it, I think, and deal with it. And his sponsors were the first to really take the incoming of these artificially manufactured online mobs. And you can engineer all this stuff in a back room with great ease. And so people who are not particularly sophisticated with it start taking all this incoming on their phone, on their social media accounts, and they think, oh my gosh, the universe, the online universe is furious with me. And Ed, if you don't know what you're doing, it can be intimidating. You know what I'm saying? That's how businesses have tucked tail and run and stopped advertising on shows like this one in the past because of it. And I just think it's important that we all take a breath now and again, particularly if you spend a lot of time online, and be very, very sure that in the era of AI and this artificially manufactured mob stuff, that people don't get swept up in it or intimidated by it or confused by it. I just think that's important. Not to say real discussions aren't happening, not to say real debates shouldn't happen, not to say anybody shouldn't be silenced. No one should be silenced. But everyone should know what is real. That about right?
Yeah, no, that absolutely makes sense. It's kind of like when you are hot on a story, something you think that's the biggest thing in the world, and then you go to dinner and someone says, what the hell are you talking about? Like they're not even aware of the story. It's just like, oh, I guess I saw that on X, huh? Like something like that. Yeah. No, that makes sense.
What I know is, for instance, that's why I don't want to spend tons of time on this, only because I know that there are just tons of people listening to the show right now who are saying to themselves, I don't know what he's talking about. And so the decision that I have as your host is to decide whether or not I want to spend a bunch of time explaining this or not, Ed, because it's something that many, many, many people are seeing online, as am I, but I think many others have absolutely no idea because they're not part of that excrement storm that's been ginned up in their particular feeds, so they don't see it and they don't know. And if they don't listen to these particular shows that I'm talking about, even though they have millions of listeners, they have no idea. what I'm even discussing right now. So it's a delicate balance. I also know that there are actual members of that audience who are just starved for conspiracy content and have now decided to plant themselves here on this show because they think that I'm now duty-bound to respond to conspiracy shows. I don't respond to conspiracy shows, and my rule of thumb here is I got enough in front of me that's real. We've got enough fires to put out that are real. I don't spend time doing shows saying, and you know what else I think? And then just leaving that in your lap. I don't think that's particularly responsible programming, Ed. That's me.
No, that makes...
You?
I agree. No, yes. We have plenty of fires, real fires burning right now to put out.
Can you explain to me the phenomenon of people that like shows? And I just, maybe this is you. I'm not picking on you if this is you. It just doesn't interest me. People who do shows who say, you know what else I think's going on? I betcha I know XYZ's happening. Or, I had a conversation with so-and-so, which has led me to believe that ... I have conversations with people all the time I don't tell you about. I text with people all the time that I don't tell you about. Either because it's private and offline and I don't want to share it, or if I do, I almost always say, hey, is this something I can share on the show? And if they say no, expressly not, do not talk about this publicly, I don't want this discussed publicly, I respect that. Now, the sad thing is we didn't hear anything about any of this stuff until a high-profile man, was murdered. And now all of a sudden there are shows that are building their entire shows and platforms on the murder of a man whose body is barely cold and his wife is grieving. And my position on Charlie Kirk's death, whatever you think of it, if his widow isn't talking about it, I'm not really interested in listening to anybody else's commentary on it, Ed. How's that sound for a metric? If his widow isn't talking about it, I'm not really interested in listening to other people's tangential thoughts about what he thought or with whom he was speaking or what he was thinking or where he was about to go. I feel like the woman sleeping with him, who's now grieving his death, is probably going to be my go-to authority on whatever Charlie was thinking hours or days before his death. And anyone else who has anything to add about it, particularly people who weren't even invited to eulogize him, I'm not particularly interested in hearing what they have to say, no matter what it is or how credible it looks. That makes sense?
Yes, makes total sense. That's a good barometer, I think. Right?
I mean, I said another way, God forbid, I don't know. Suddenly I'm taken out and I'm gone. Do you think people would be more apt to... You and I work together every day, but do you think you know me better than my wife?
No, I don't.
You and I have had a close working relationship for a very long time, but do you think you know me better than my wife of 25 years?
I would bet not. No. Hopefully not.
Now, in this day, what I'm sorry to say is, in this day and age, if God forbid something like that happened to me, you could start a show, assuming there was interest in me this way, and there's not. I'm not. Don't misunderstand. I'm not making any analogy to me and Charlie Kirk. All I'm saying, just for the sake of the discussion, to make the point, if there was great interest in something that had happened to me, you could start a show and say, you know who killed Stigall? The Jews. And there would be a really healthy audience for that, I'm sorry to say. A really healthy audience for it. And then you could say, and I happen to know that there were people close to Stigall talking to him days before his death. Now, all the while, my grieving wife at home has said nothing publicly about this. She's given a couple of by the way, also, there's a big public memorial service for me, but you're not invited to speak at it. My wife and several of my friends and colleagues were invited to speak. You weren't. Then you start a show and talk about how you have the real skinny on why I was murdered. Now, can you explain to me why there would be a huge audience? I mean, look, people miss Charlie. People are sad Charlie's gone. People are angry Charlie is gone. There is always heightened suspicion around things when we don't know instantaneous information. I totally respect that. I think transparency is always good, but I think in investigations, I think everybody understands investigations get compromised quickly if law enforcement and everybody else just starts blabbing and talking about every step of an investigation, that's perilous to the ultimate investigation and prosecution. But we're in 2025 where everybody thinks they're entitled to know everything instantaneously. And where they don't know or there's question or questions aren't answered, in 2025 people go online and they start manufacturing their own stuff. That seems plausible. And then hosts just start saying things they think are plausible. And because there's a huge audience of people that want answers and they aren't satisfied, and there's somebody who's feeding into that, here's what I think happened. Well, kaboom! That's kerosene on a fire. And I just think when you take the assassination of someone and make that about you, well, I don't know what to say about that. I'm not sure what to say about that. It's not in my core. It's not in my nature. It's not what I'm made of. I don't understand it. But the suggestion that Charlie Kirk was killed because he was about to invite back a podcast host into his orbit and his organization, effectively. Or that he was murdered by the government of Israel because he had problems with some Jewish donors who didn't like some of the speakers he was bringing on the Turning Point stage. There's a huge appetite for that theory, Ed. And again, I don't know what to tell you. I suspect there are people listening to this show who believe that. Look, that's between you and God. I'm not going to try to talk you out of anything. You know, my motto here is I don't try to talk anybody out of anything. You can feel any way you want. But as for me, I sleep well at night knowing who I answer to. And it ain't that mess. Good to be with you. Looking at Syracuse, New York this morning on the Salem News Channel. Get the app. It's free. Follow along on social media. Follow the podcast. If you don't catch this show live, I hope you listen to the podcast. A lot of people do. I always hear, I can always tell podcast listeners because they usually let me know what they think late at night. I'll get a ding, 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 ding. I can't believe you said this or that. I'm glad you listen when you do, however you get here. Thanks a lot. Welcome aboard. And you can find all of it at chrisstigall.com. The thing about it is there are people who do wish any of us who oppose them ill, maybe even dead. We know this. President Trump, Exhibit A. That is true. Are there evil people that wish to take out their political rivals or people who oppose them? Absolutely. Are there dark and evil forces that wish people who oppose them harm? Absolutely. But you need look no further than what's right out in the open. I mean, we can sit around and imagine things, or we can deal with people right in front of us. Like this Jay Jones guy in Virginia, for instance, who now finally, apparently, has been forced to have a conscience and has canceled his most recent fundraiser. We've been talking about this week. Jay Jones, Democrat nominee from Axios for Attorney General in Virginia, canceling his fundraiser tomorrow night. According to a person familiar with the matter, the scrubbed fundraiser, another indication the Jones campaign is in crisis mode. Well, I should think it would be in cancellation mode. Again, in an era where people are being murdered for their political points of view, I don't think you can tolerate the potential top cop of a state musing about saving 2 bullets for the Republican House Speaker, as he did back in 2022. The texts reported on Friday by National Review, if you don't know the story or you don't remember it. This guy has not held a public event since last Friday night when he answered questions about it, said this rhetoric has no place in our landscape. Tim Kaine was also scheduled to attend the fundraiser tomorrow night, telling reporters yesterday he is still a supporter. That's interesting, while calling Jones' comments indefensible. He also noted Jay has apologized. Democrat donors receiving a memo from the Jones campaign that their donations would be refunded after canceling the event. So there are Democrats out in the open who have been caught out in the open saying they would like to see harm befall people, bullets reserved for people, children killed because they politically oppose them. This guy is running for Attorney General of Virginia, and he doesn't appear to have any, he has no intention of dropping out of the race. This is who's right in front of us, folks. These people are right in front of us. So you can do a show about imagined things that we have no way of proving or knowing, or you can deal with people who are right in front of us who present real and present threats. Or how about Mrs. Potato Head out there in California? You people in California, this is, in a way, I don't want this woman to go away. I didn't realize she was back. Katie Porter, one of the most ridiculous people. Well, was she the one that assailed... I call her Mrs. Potato Head because the police report was she dumped a boiling pot of potatoes on her husband or boyfriend or something. Isn't that about right?
That's exactly it, because the first time you called her Mrs. Potato Head, when we were playing her audio quite a bit because it was so ridiculous, the first time you said it, someone said, "Oh, don't be so mean, Chris. It's just like, stop calling her, making fun of her appearance." You're like, no, it's because she literally poured a boiling pot of potatoes on her husband's head. That's why she's Mrs. Potato Head.
She assails people. So here's another violent, angry Democrat who wants to be governor of California. She can't handle tough questions from a journalist. And it's not even tough questions, really. This is a woman asking, do you need Trump voters in California to win your primary? And listen to her just freak out. I'm glad she didn't have a boiling pot of potatoes, or this woman might have gotten them in her lap too. Give me number 5 here. Democrat Katie Porter in California.
What do you say to the 40% of California voters who you'll need in order to win, who voted for Trump?
How would I need them in order to win, ma'am?
Well, unless you think you're going to get 60% of the vote. You think you'll get 60%. Everybody who did not vote for Trump will vote for you. That's what you're saying.
In a general election, yes. If it is me versus a Republican, I think that I will win the people who did not vote for Trump.
What if it's you versus another Democrat?
I don't intend that to be the case.
So how do you not intend that to be the case? Are you going to ask them not to run?
No, I'm saying I'm going to build the support. I have the support already in terms of name recognition. Mm-hmm. And so I'm going to do the very best I can to make sure that we get through this primary in a really strong position. But let me be clear with you. I represented Orange County. I represented a purple area. Mm-hmm. I have stood on my own 2 feet and won Republican votes before. That's not something every candidate in this race can say. If you're from a deep blue area, if you're from LA or you're from Oakland, you don't have an experience.
But you just said you don't need those Trump voters.
Well, you asked me if I needed them to win.
So you don't think
I feel like this is unnecessarily argumentative. What is your question?
The question is the same thing I asked everybody, that this is being called the empowering voters to stop Trump's power grab. Every other candidate has answered this question. This is not
correct. And I said I support it.
So, and the question is, what do you say to the 40% of voters who voted for Trump?
Oh, I'm happy to say that. It's the do you need them to win part that I don't understand. I'm happy to answer the question as you have it written, and I'll answer it.
And we've also asked the other candidates, do you think you need any of those 40% of California voters to win? And you're saying, no, you don't.
No, I'm saying I'm going to try to win every vote I can. And what I'm saying to you is that...
Well, to those voters. Okay, so you...
I don't want to keep doing this. I'm going to call it. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. And this goes on. I mean, this goes on. And like she threatens to just walk off because she's being challenged even a little bit. That's Democrats. Anyway, more in a minute. U.S. medical plan. My great friend John Ruhlman wants to help you with your insurance needs this year as everybody's wondering about their premiums, if they're going to go up. John Ruhlman says they don't have to. If you're getting ready to sign up for some kind of supplemental program with Medicare, I'm thrilled to hear. John told me this week, lots of you are calling him for him to shop. He's got 100 different private health insurers out there that he knows, he works with, and he will take great care of you. He has saved hundreds of dollars a month for my parents who buy supplemental health insurance for their Medicare plan. I have personal friends who buy their own health insurance. He has saved them thousands of dollars. He can do this for you too. Give him a few minutes. Find out if you can get cheaper insurance. Still the same coverage, but cheaper. It's out there. It exists. If you'll work with John and the team at usmedicalplan.com. usmedicalplan.com or call 877-410-4321. 877-410-4321. It's been my pleasure and honor to talk about Bob Spinato at Williamsburg Dental in Broomall, just off the Blue Route, as my dentist and friend of over 12 years. But now he has two brand new associates, his daughter Alexa and Dr. Geddes. Tell him about him, Bob.
Yeah, Chris, I can't begin to express how proud I am, obviously, of having my daughter there. Also, Dr. Geddes is just a wonderful addition to our practice. He is a classmate of my daughter Alexa's at Temple Dental School, and I have known Jared for about 7 years now. Getting to know Jared over the years, it was my wife Debbie and my daughter Emily who kept telling me, "You have to hire Jared. You have to hire Jared. He's going to be a superstar." Jared went off to USC, did a 1-year residency after his year at Temple, and he came back and he worked for about a year in practice in New Jersey. And after, again, my wife and daughter beating my brains in, I got the message and I hired Jared, and he's been a great addition to Williamsburg Dental.
Pick up the phone or go online, make that appointment, 610-353-2700 or williamsburg-dental.com. Good to be with you, folks. Welcome in. How are the Cubbies doing? I haven't followed much postseason baseball this year, I must confess. Looking live there at Wrigley, which I took my dad to on Father's Day years ago and thoroughly enjoyed myself. There's Wrigleyville, shot of home of your Cubs. Thanks for listening on AM 560, The Answer there in Chicago, or wherever you happen to be listening. Ed, they're still very much in it, aren't they? Or have I haven't followed that series.
So they're in the same spot as the Phillies are in right now. They are 0-2 to the...
They're down?
Yeah, down 0-2 to the Brewers right now out of the best of 5.
Okay.
So it's going to be tough.
I tell you, I must say that I have thoroughly enjoyed my time watching Cubs games in their home, watching Brewers games in their home, and of course it goes without saying the Philadelphia Phillies I have thoroughly enjoyed watching in their home. I don't have much of a relationship with any of the other teams in the postseason. So we are heading out, though, to Dodger country, which I should mention, and I haven't done this yet, and I'm sorry, but we've still got some time on this, so I want to mention to you that out there at AM 870, The Answer, my friends Jen and Grant, who host that great show coming up this morning, those of you who listen out west, we're up very, very early, and on Sunday the 19th, we're heading out to the Hyatt Regency in Orange County for a huge event, and if you haven't heard about this yet, this is going to be chock-a-blocked with folks. Our friend Scott Jennings is going to be there. Dinesh D'Souza is going to be there. Larry Elder is going to be out there. And we're going to have a Charlie Kirk tribute, of course. There's going to be a lot. We're going to have a conversation with there's a gentleman out west. Some of you who are in that particular region may know. But if you don't and you come to this event, you're going to get to know him. Pastor Scott Furrow hosts a program out west on our sister station, what we call our Christian Teach and Talk affiliate of The Answer in Los Angeles, and he invites me on from time to time, and we have some great conversations during his afternoon show in the Los Angeles area. He and I are going to host a panel on faith and politics, and then all of us are going to get together for a big media panel discussion. I'd love to meet you. If you happen to be out that way, if you're anywhere close to the Hyatt Regency in Orange County, Garden Grove, California is where it is. This is my first visit out there. Never been. I'm going out to Gavin Newsom, Mrs. Potato Head country, Fast Eddie. Wonder if we can find her. You think she'd sit down with an interview for us since she doesn't like to take interviews from regular media? Maybe she'd talk to us.
Well, she's running for governor. I'm guessing she's part of the Larry Elder is the blackface of white supremacy country out there.
Anyway, AM870theanswer.com is where you can get your tickets. All right, and I will. I'll post a link to that as well, so you can get yours. But I hope you'll come out and see us. So it's a full day. There's going to be a chance for you to, if you haven't met Scott Jennings and you'd like to, I'd love to shake your hand and say hello. I'm not going to have any kind of highfalutin VIP lunch. That's only for the dignitaries. But that starts at like 11 o'clock in the morning, and this thing goes all the way through to a meet and greet in the evening at 5:30. So like it's a full day on Sunday, October 19th. That's coming up. Love to meet you. My point is, if you're out and around the AM 870 The Answer way, and my friends Jen and Grant, if you're an early riser and you listen to this show live or maybe on podcast later, where my California peeps at, my SoCal people, I would love to shake your hand and say hi. So come on out. Again, am870theanswer.com to get your tickets to what they're calling their Town Hall 2025. Town Hall 2025. Just look for that at am870theanswer.com. Hope to see you there. So, Jay Jones in Virginia, threatening to assassinate people on social media that he doesn't agree with politically. He's now in hiding, but still continuing to run for the chief law enforcement official of Virginia. Mrs. Potato Head, Katie Porter, out in California, when she's not assailing her boyfriend with boiling hot potato water. She refuses to answer any questions from any media and rips her microphone off and says she doesn't like the tone of being questioned. Then out in New York, Mad Manny continues to loom large. Mad Manny, the man most likely to be the next mayor of New York. This from PJ Media. Behaving like a man who can't lose, and maybe he can't. Yesterday marking the second anniversary of October 7th jihad massacre in Israel, during which Hamas jihadis murdered 1,200 Israelis. Reading this from Robert Spencer at PJ Media. While the ensuing 2 years have been inexplicable for many Israelis, and numerous people have just abandoned innocent victims and line up behind bloodthirsty perpetrators at Hamas, one might have thought that the anniversary itself, even haters of Israel, might have tried to pretend they had some residual sympathy for the ordinary people who were going about their lives until the self-professed lovers of death crashed in on them. But anyone who might have thought that Mad Manny would have summoned the decency to affect such sympathy was in for a rude awakening. The New York Post reporting yesterday, Mad Manny chose the second anniversary of Hamas's brutal October 7th attack to blast Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and the Israeli government for launching a genocidal war in Gaza. Couldn't the guy have had enough basic humanity to at least wait until the 8th? Nope. Mad Manny, not only a Marxist, he is also what Robert Spencer calls a 12er Shiite Muslim. 12er Shiism is the official religion of the Islamic Republic of Iran, which forces its people to chant death to Israel, as well as death to America, in mosques every Friday. Do you know that? Do people in New York know that? Do Americans know that? You should if you don't. This is why I regularly say if you don't understand Sharia law, if you don't understand radical Islam, you need to read the work of people like Robert Spencer. In fact, we probably ought to book him, Ed. Probably worth having some more conversations about radical Islam, just so we're reminded of what we're up against and the ideology of the person that's probably going to become the next mayor of New York. We should all be aware of who Democrats are bowing to, who Democrats have been infiltrated by. Not just kids on college campuses anymore. They are now officially running proudly as Democrats on the ballot, and I will just tell you that I'm convinced that many of them and their funding mechanisms have infiltrated many in the commentariat on the right. And I can confirm that it is alive and well, I'm sorry to say, again on social media. Not going to belabor that point, but it's true. Wishing death upon the Jewish state is considered to be a holy and righteous act, writes Robert Spencer. Why would Mad Manny hide his sentiments on the anniversary of a day in which those crimes, why should he hide these sentiments on the anniversary of a day those wishes came true? He did pay lip service to the fact Hamas is evil, beginning his statement on X by saying 2 years ago Hamas carried out a horrific war crime, killing more than 1,000 Israelis and kidnapping 250 more. I mourn those lives and pray for the safe return of every hostage. That was all Mad Manny had to say about Hamas, though. He then spent the next 3 paragraphs condemning Israel. In the aftermath of that day, he claimed Prime Minister Netanyahu and the Israeli government launched a genocidal war, a death toll that now far exceeds 67,000, with the Israeli military bombing homes, hospitals, and schools into rubble. Every day in Gaza has become a place where grief itself has run out of language. That was an unusually elegant turn of phrase. Did the candidate's father, the internationally renowned Marxist writer Mahmoud Mamdani, help him with that statement? Whoever wrote the statement, it's a tissue of lies, writes Robert Spencer at PJ Media. What is Mad Manny's source for the claim that the death toll in Gaza now exceeds 67,000? That's a great question. Robert Spencer asking questions here that should be answered. Who is the source for this stuff? 67,000 deaths in Gaza. Who reports that? The Gaza Ministry of Health, which is Hamas, tacitly admitting that it casually figures in these casualty numbers with propaganda tools when it quietly revised them downward in 2024. No such revision, however, could move Zoran Mamdani to moderate his anti-Israel rhetoric. This Israel-hating ideologue was already accusing the Jewish state of genocide as early as November 14th, 2023, when Israel's defensive action in Gaza had scarcely begun. He's also repeated the standard leftist lie on Israel, calling it to end the, quote, occupation and apartheid. In reality, there is neither an occupation nor apartheid in Israel. But like any good Marxist, the man follows the party line. Matthew Schwerber, member at Columbia's University of Jewish Alumni Association, drew out the significance of Mamdani's statement. There is no moral equivalence between Hamas and Israel. That statement shows he's unfit to be mayor of New York City. It results in classic blood libel by describing Israel as an apartheid state. It's reminiscent of the blood libel against the Jewish people for centuries. Yes, that's true, writes Spencer. Yet the fact that Mamdani didn't hesitate to put it out demonstrates that he didn't think there would be any political cost in doing so. He appears to have the mayor's race in the bag, and he's acting as if he does. So buckle up, New Yorkers. That is in PJ Media today from Robert Spencer. Mamdani marks second anniversary of October 7th Jihad massacre as only he can, he writes. That's your Democrat Party. Islamo-fascists, raging left-wing women who assault their boyfriends with scalding hot water, and guys who casually mention assassinating their political rivals, like Jay Jones in Virginia. That's your modern Democrat Party. I personally don't think we ought to flirt with those folks by bringing some of their audiences into ours, but that's me. More in a minute. Foggy looking New London, Connecticut this morning on the Salem News Channel. Got an old ship there in the fog. That looks like staying in bed weather in New London, Connecticut, quite frankly. Glad you're here. Hope you're watching or listening, wherever you happen to be. Welcome aboard. Our telephone number, 855-STIGAL, if you'd like to get in here. How'd Pam Bondi do yesterday? You pleased with it, not pleased with it? Ed, I like to turn to you. You're my Bondi barometer. You know that this audience, there were members of this audience as the year kicked off who called the show, Floridians, as a matter of fact. Not a lot. I'm not even saying most. I'm just saying there were people. And we have gently wondered aloud, is this the woman for the job? How'd she do yesterday?
I mean, again, responding to Democrats, she was fine. It was fun. Like, if they're going to ask stupid questions and play stupid games during a real, Senate hearing, then she responded appropriately. It was fun. It's good entertainment.
Here is the real news of yesterday and why the Attorney General should have been, questioned, and all lawmakers should have wanted to actually get to the bottom of this particular issue that the Attorney General brought up. Listen to number 90. Here's how it began. This is the actual news of yesterday. Of course, we're talking about Arctic frost. This, the surveilling of Republican senators in the Biden administration, the weaponization of the government by the Biden administration. This is the actual news story from yesterday. Let's listen to her words about it. Number 90, the Attorney General.
When I was confirmed as the 87th Attorney General of the United States, I took office with two main goals: to end the weaponization of justice and return the department to its core mission of fighting violent crime. As to ending the weaponization of justice, we learned that former FBI secretly investigated you and your colleagues. Why? They wanted to take President Trump off the playing field. They were playing politics with law enforcement powers and will go down as a historic betrayal of public trust. This is the kind of conduct that shatters the American people's faith in our law enforcement system. We will work to earn that back every single day. We are returning to our core mission of fighting real crime. While there is more work to do, I believe in 8 short months, we have made tremendous progress towards those ends. Our federal surges in Washington, D.C. and Memphis are a perfect example of how the Department of Justice should operate.
Now, I could play you a bunch of ridiculous and stupid Democrats. Maybe I will a little later. But Eric Schmidt went on an absolute tear. Former Attorney General of Missouri, senator now from Missouri, knows about the weaponization of the Biden administration better than maybe any other senator, as he fought it all the way to the Supreme Court on behalf of the residents of Missouri in the censorship of you and me during the COVID era, during the Hunter Biden laptop era, and he laid it out very clearly for his colleagues and all to hear. Number 88. This is Eric Schmidt yesterday.
Do you think this Justice Department is acting politically by going after President Trump's enemies, James Comey, Senator Schiff?
I'm glad you asked the question. Let me make a clear distinction. The weaponization we saw under Joe Biden, okay, that is the weaponization of government. The idea that you would hold people accountable who weaponize the Justice Department is not the same thing. So I hope we'll make that clear. I'm going to say that 1,000 times. This is not the same thing. By the way, if President Trump wanted to do that, he would have done that in his first term against Hillary Clinton and all the people that came at him then. That didn't happen. So this Justice Department is abiding by every single court ruling, and they're trying to clean up a mess that, again, was the most dramatic example of corruption you could ever have in the Department of Justice.
Pam Bondi, dealing with Chris Coons, one of the more lecherous members of the Senate, the two-face, if ever there was one, Chris Coons of Delaware, reminding him why we're here and why by the way, James Comey scheduled to be arraigned today. This came up yesterday, Comey, with Coons and Pam Bondi, number 96.
About when or if the president demands you prosecute individuals because he views them as opponents or enemies, what you will do and what your limiting standard is, because the recent episode around the indictment of James Comey left me very concerned about the direction of the department.
We're a minute and a half over, Senator Chairman. May I answer?
Yes.
Senator Coons, as you have stated in the past, no one is above the law. Mm-hmm. And James Comey is a pending case right now. It's a pending indictment. He was indicted by one of the most liberal grand juries in the country, by our U.S. Attorney Lindsay Halligan, right here in Virginia. And it's a pending case.
So she makes the point. Look, that's the law. A grand jury said they saw cause to indict the man. By the way, I called him lecherous. I don't know his sexual proclivities. He's treacherous. That was the word I was looking for. I'll let somebody else describe him as lecherous. I don't know that with authority. You know, it's not often that you can surprise me with ridiculous news from the cable news networks, but this one was a jaw-dropper. So stupid, in fact, when I saw it, Fast Eddie and I were immediately reminded of our friend Steve Milloy, who founded Junk Science, and we thought, well, we've got to get him on to respond to it. Are you ready for this? I hope you're seated. Do you use an inhaler? Do you have asthma? Have you been prescribed an inhaler? I don't, but I know people that do. Do you know that now your very medicine that you inhale for your asthma, CNN has released a new study that says you're warming the planet. All right, Steve Milloy, we are glad to have you back at Junk Science on X. I mean, like, if you're now telling people their medicine to keep them alive and save them from asthma is warming the planet, it's not too far from what we used to joke. We just need fewer people exhaling that pollutant called CO2, right? We're getting closer, it seems, every study. Good morning.
Good morning. Well, Chris, thanks for having me. So, yeah, and this strikes a personal chord with me because in the past I have had asthmatic episodes. And, 10, 20 years ago, when you got an inhaler, I can't, unless you have asthma, you can't appreciate, you can't breathe. But you just take a blast from the inhaler, you can feel it on the back of your throat. I mean, it makes you able to breathe. And it's incredible. It's a miracle. But for the last 10, 15 years, the climate hoaxing crowd has claimed that the propellants used in inhalers are warming the planet, as you said. And before that, they were claiming that they were, helping to create the hole in the ozone layer. And of course, this is total nonsense. And, even if it were true, well, the propellants used in the old inhalers and even today's are greenhouse gases for sure. but emitted in such a small amount that it doesn't really make a difference. It's not like China where they're building two new coal-fired power plants, every week or something like that.
Steve, to your point, 34 million Americans have chronic lung disease, 28 million who have asthma, and that's according to the Allergy and Asthma Foundation of America, which I didn't know was a thing, and the number's expected to grow with warmer weather, which, of course, they also say is because of us, and we're causing the warmer weather, whatever. But my point is, and your point is, people need this to survive, and also, correct me if I'm wrong, when you... And that goes, aren't you inhaling it? Is most of it going into the atmosphere anyway?
Well, there's probably some leakage, and then there's the manufacturer. And it's all trivial, right? But the real point is that it matters to the quality of the inhaler. When they used to use chlorofluorocarbons, CFCs, for the inhalers, and they worked really great. Now they use something else, and it's not quite as great. And they want to. And actually, these HFCs have been banned. And even during the Trump administration, Congress passed a bill which President Trump signed about refrigerants banning these HFCs. So this is a real problem for people.
I've heard this. May I interrupt on that? Just because I'm sorry to interrupt, but I just thought it was a good point to jump in on. I got a note in my mailbox that said, "Hey, do you need a new air conditioner this year?" And it was some guy, and I don't exactly know the angle because it was a lottery. It was a really verbose ad for an HVAC company, and it said something to the effect of new requirements, federal requirements are coming down the pike for coolant or whatever, so hurry up and get your new air conditioner now because you're going to be screwed next year if you don't. I thought, well, it sounds right, but I thought it was an amazing ploy for business. So what of that? I think you were kind of talking about it.
Well, yeah. So the UN passed this. Has a treaty. It's called the Kigali Amendment, and it bans the new class of propellants, hydrofluorocarbons, HFCs. And then the Trump administration, because this whole ozone hole hoax and the CFC ban and the HCFC ban has all been pushed by industry because they want to sell more expensive propellants, and they also want to extend patent life. The reason the CFC scare caught hold is because DuPont's patent rights were running out on CFC, so they just wanted to develop something new, and they did. So the chemical manufacturers in 2020 convinced the Louisiana senators to press Trump to get this bill signed, and so now we're banning HFCs, the most recent ban of generation of propellants. But guess what? There's no standard future propellant. We don't know what the future holds. There's just the technology does not exist. There's things they're working on, but nothing's been commercialized. So we've banned these things before even having a replacement now. And Republicans have actually played a part in this. It's mostly Democrats, but there are some Republicans. And this is just a disaster, especially for asthmatics, because there's no substitute for, the old inhalers. The new ones work, but not like the old ones.
Not as well, which is always the case. Always. Trump talks about the light bulbs and the faucets, drip, 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 and the horrible light. None of it ever works as well. Ever. Does it? Whatever it is, right, they say. Right. Yeah.
Right. It started in the early 1990s with the toilets. They took away toilets that worked. Now you have to flush them 2-3 times, and still you have to scrub the bowl afterwards. The light bulbs, the appliances. Right. So President Trump has had to start rulemakings to, give us dishwashers that actually work. But the problem is that the industry doesn't want to make simple things that work. They want to make, complex things that don't really work, break down more often, are more expensive. They charge us more money, even though the stuff comes from China, where it's made with, essentially slave labor. It's really bad. It's a bad situation, and it's all because of this climate hoax. It hides under its skirt.
Do you? I mean, is this reversible? These bans, or is this something? I mean, you said President Trump even signed it into law. So, like, people that are thinking about, I mean, what if you're thinking about getting a new air conditioner? Should you hurry up and do it before you got to get some new compliant thing?
Well, but no one knows what the new compliant thing is. So if you need an air conditioner, just get one. I mean, it's not like you can't go back because they won't let you. You can't really go forward because it doesn't exist. So all you have is what's available. You know, and of course, it costs a lot, you know, regardless of what kind of air conditioner you get, it costs a lot more to recharge them and to repair them now because the propellants are more expensive, right? This goes for your car air conditioner, just refrigeration, just everything. And there's no benefit to any of this. I mean, the ozone hole thing was a hoax. You know, over the last 30 years since we've had all these regulations, the ozone level has stayed the same. It hasn't changed, even though, you know, we've gotten rid of CFCs and HCFCs and now HO. I mean, it just hasn't made a difference in the slightest. And of course, global warming is, you know, also a hoax. And we're just being screwed because, you know, unfortunately, Republicans, I don't know what it is. You know, I love President Trump. He's great. But all of the Republicans, when it comes to these environmental issues, they really suck.
I was curious. I'm glad you brought this up because it seems, based on the conversations that we've had with people like Lee Zeldin, they've been interested in clawing back a lot of this Marxist money laundering that's been going through EPA, for instance. Are you pleased with what Zeldin is doing there, or you feel like even the Trump administration's a little susceptible to the climate stuff?
No, he's doing a great job. I mean, he clawed back the $20 billion in, you know, gold bars thrown off the Titanic that the Biden administration tried to shovel out at the last minute. President Trump has a great agenda for rolling back the climate hoax and a lot of other environmental stuff, and they're trying to get the energy or, you know, energy dominance going again, which requires permitting, and Zeldin's doing a great job on all that. But, you know, a lot of what I'm talking about is really the Republicans in Congress. They're very weak on this stuff. You know, we used to have Senator Jim Inhofe, who was fantastic. You know, he understood, you know, the climate hoax. And so he could keep Republicans kind of honest, but there's no one really like that anymore. And then you have, you know, Republicans get lobbied by industry and they assume that industry is doing the right thing. Well, no, the refrigerant industry just wants to sell more expensive refrigerants. The car companies just want to sell more expensive cars. The trucking association just wants to sell more expensive trucks. All of this stuff militates against our standard of living and freedoms.
Steve Milloy. Steve, we appreciate your time this morning. Thank you so much, my friend. Steve Milloy is junkscience.com if you want to find more of his work, and on X at junkscience. All right, Chris Cuomo yesterday in a showdown with Eric Trump. Give me number 8, Paulie. Here we go. Eric Trump's going to join us shortly, actually, on the show, I think in the next hour, so don't go anywhere for that. But Cuomo basically says this same old tired trope that Trump is just exacting vengeance on his enemies and weaponizing the government. Eric Trump is having none of this. Tour de force from Eric. Listen to this in number 8.
Do you think that it is fair to say it looks like the administration is going after its political opponents now and doing exactly what you say you oppose?
What, Comey? Because I mean, it seemed very clear to me in the congressional testimony. I don't know, just watching it, I certainly seemed like he lied to me. I mean, I'm also wondering what an FBI director is doing, taking memos from the FBI and leaking them to the New York Times. I mean, Chris, I'm a guy that hopes that the FBI director would be keeping planes from flying into buildings, you know, keeping our country safe, keeping the Western way of life safe. Instead, this guy is, you know, communicating every single day with the New York Times. I mean, I'd hope a lot better. But I find it so ironic that you're literally one that's pushing back on the weaponization of government when the very same people that were coming after us, you know, went after your brother, you know, like hounds. I mean, they did everything they could to destroy his governorship. They did everything they could to destroy his life. They did everything they could to destroy you. I sat in that same seat. The only difference is my last name wasn't Cuomo. My last name was Trump. They were trying to destroy my father. And by doing that, they were trying to destroy me, and they were trying to destroy the Trump organization. They were trying to take all our assets and strip our name off of every building in New York City. You've been on the receiving end of the very same people that I've been on the receiving end of. And so to play coy with me as if this isn't happening in the United States of America just seems ironic and foolish given what you've been through more so than anybody.
Hold on a second. What did you just say that you think I'm doing? I'm asking you questions about whether or not if something is wrong, it is also wrong to do the same thing when you get back in power, which certainly happened the first time the administration came in. You went right after Biden. And I don't mean you weren't part of the administration. I'll get to you in a second in terms of what's going on right now. But if you think I'm playing coy, you don't know me as well as you should.
Chris,
I'm not playing coy. I know what happened to me,
Chris,
Eric.
did we,
I'm saying
Chris,
that
and it was
what is
horrible
happening now looks like what was done to you. That's why I'm asking the question.
Did we raid Biden's home? Did we try and bankrupt Biden? Did they come after us? Did we weaponize every AG and DA, against Biden? Did we do that against Hunter Biden, who had a laptop from hell, pictures of cocaine, illicit drug use, prostitution? Did we?
Yeah, I mean, this, and he goes on. It's brilliant. We're going to have Eric on in just a little bit to revisit this, but he reminds everyone of what they received versus what they're dishing out. It ain't even close or comparable. You may not know this, but this is very, very good news. John Barrasso said yesterday, he's the majority whip over there in the Senate for the Republicans. Did you know that the Senate GOP has now confirmed more of President Trump's nominees than even the old Husks nominees? Did you even hear this? I bet you didn't. Nobody knows it's even happening. Thanks to new rules through the nuclear option, the Senate has now confirmed another huge batch of nominees last night, putting them ahead of tallies at the same point under the Biden and first Trump terms. Barrasso of Wyoming compared the nominee confirmation numbers of the past few administrations in a presentation slide obtained by Axios. Total number of Trump 2.0 confirmations now stands at just under 300. So last night, now as of last night, the Senate has now confirmed almost 300 of President Trump's nominees. Now, there are a few thousand, I think. So that doesn't sound very impressive by comparison. However, 201 nominees confirmed at this same point under Biden. Only 183 were confirmed at this same point in President Trump's first term. His slide also included images of Trump representing his administration and an image of an auto pen signing Biden's name. The new block of confirmation leaves 26 people waiting to be confirmed, 16 in the executive branch and 10 judicial branch nominees. Of course, when I say vacant spots for nominees, it doesn't necessarily mean that Trump has nominated somebody to fill every vacant spot. But of those he's nominated, the good news is there's just 26 people waiting to be confirmed, 16 in the executive, 10 in the judicial. As for President Trump himself yesterday, he had a press conference with the Canadian Prime Minister. It was I don't know. It was pleasant. It was there was some jocularity there. Give me number 3 here as they're talking about the tariff war and the financials between the two of them. They're trying to be congenial here before the press. Listen.
Canadians are refusing to go to the U.S. The numbers are down like 23% in the first 7 months of the year. What do you say to Canadians that don't want to go to the U.S. now because of your 51st state talk, because of the trade war, the tariffs?
Yeah,
and
well,
fear
I understand it. Look, I understand that, and Americans don't want to buy cars that are made in Canada. I mean, we have the same conflict. So there isn't. It's something that will get worked out. There's still great love between the two countries, but American people want product here. They want to make it here. Detroit was emptied out and moved to Canada, moved to Mexico, moved to other places, not just Canada. And now they're all moving back, they're moving back. We have, right now, I was just telling Mark, we have 17 trillion, but it's really much higher. That was as of a couple of months ago.
The question, what do you say to these Canadians who don't want to come to the United States because of your tariffs? Trump said, well, I understand that. I think we'll fix that. For instance, Americans don't want to buy crappy Canadian cars, but hey, we all understand. We're all friends here. I love the passive-aggressive Carney, the Prime Minister of Canada here, talking about the tariff deal. Listen to this in clip 1.
He's a nice man, but he can be nasty. He can be very nasty, maybe as nasty as anybody.
How?
I think Canada, let me put it this way, I can tell you this because I deal with lots of leaders all over the world. He is a world-class leader. He's a man that knows what he wants, and I'm not surprised to see that he won the election and won it substantially, and I would think he's more popular now. He's a good man. He does a great job, and he's a tough negotiator.
So then what's holding things up? If he's a great man and you want to do a deal with Canada, why aren't you?
Because I want to be a great man, too.
I tell you, this guy is fun to watch. He is the ultimate firewall in a time where things have just... You know what? In fact, I think he's doing, frankly, such a good job, if I may. I think there are people on our side that are bored. Ed, does that make sense? This actually occurred to me yesterday, given kind of the... I'm not revisiting it, but just kind of given the tone of some on our side right now and their singular obsession with other things that I God bless them. It's their right to do whatever show they want to do. But the obsession with the division and causing strife inside conservatism, I think is done out of boredom. Because talking about Trump kicking butt the way he is not exciting enough for some. Is kind of what I think it is, if I could be completely honest with you.
Yeah, there's no...
Disagree?
There's no controversy. There's no... It's just like he's left, right, whomever. He's bringing everybody into the White House and just winning. Like winning and laughing about it. So, yeah, where's the story in that? Where's the fun in that? It's not conspiratorial.
Pete Hegseth has fired the chief of staff for the Navy. Guy called John Harrison Friday. Harrison was appointed in January to lead the Navy's chief of staff, working alongside the Navy secretary to implement organizational changes under Hegseth's new leadership. War Department confirmed his removal. He will no longer serve as chief of staff. According to two defense officials, Harris's firing was sudden. You can almost assuredly bet that he's probably some sort of sympathetic woke guy. And Hegseth was pretty clear. If that's you or you have problems with our new standards or whatever, hit the bricks. Again, it's just, this is an administration that knows what it wants. It knows the direction it's going in, and it's not making any apologies. It's not backing down. It's winning. I've got a whole stack of winning I haven't even gotten to yet. Speaking of, Eric Trump is just around the corner. Don't go anywhere. Well, I don't know about you, but losing weight is one of those things I have been battling my entire life. Hi, it's Chris Stigall, and trying to keep it off once I've lost it instead of gaining it back, that's also been a very difficult thing. I decided I was going to try something new. I decided I was going to try my PhD weight loss. And I decided I was going to try it because I know personally colleagues and many listeners to the Salem Radio Network that have lost thousands of pounds of weight combined thanks to the My PhD Weight Loss program. So I'm going to call up Dr. Ashley Lucas and the team at My PhD Weight Loss. I'm going to get one of these personal nutrition coaches. I hope you'll join me in this weight loss journey. I hope very soon you and I will be able to brag about all the weight and inches we're losing off our waist. I'd just like to get a little weight off these knees, you know. I'm not getting any younger. It's going to be a lot easier to walk around a golf course this summer. Join me. MyPhDweightloss.com is the website, or 864-644-1900. 864-664-1900 or myphdweightloss.com. Tell them Chris Stigall sent you, and good luck. Here we go. MyPillow is excited to announce they're having their biggest 3-in-1 sale ever with a limited edition product, a back-in-stock special, and a closeout deal you're not going to find anywhere else. MyPillow bed sheets, only $29.88, any color, any style, and any size, even the king size. Regularly priced at $119.98, now only $29.88. Once they're gone, though, they're gone for good. My towels are finally back in stock, but not for long. Get a 6-piece My Towel set, regularly priced at $69.98, now only $39.98. And for the first time, and the only time, get their limited edition premium MyPillows made with Giza cotton and a designer gusset. Queens starting at $17.98, kings at $19.98. And for a limited time, when you order over $100, you'll receive free shipping plus $100 in free digital gifts. 800-932-5056, promo code Chris, or use that promo code at mypillow.com, promo code Chris. I think we're going to make it, folks. Hang on tight and enjoy the ride. Looking at the windy city of Chicago this morning on the Salem News Channel. Thanks for listening on AM 560, The Answer, and all across the country on great radio stations like it. Whether you've got the Salem News Channel app and you're watching there, Samsung Plus, Roku, all the different ways in which you can stream the show and watch it or listen. Just glad to have you along. ChrisStigall.com for everything you need related to the show, social media and the like. So here we are in the midst of the shutdown, and we've already told you that as far as Republicans are concerned, they're pretty unified in message here. We just want to pass a clean CR. Don't want to add anything, don't want to subtract anything. Democrats, of course, want to add. Congressman Dan Meuser, friend of the show from Pennsylvania's 9th Congressional District, joins us again. He's on the House Committee on Small Business and Financial Services, and glad to have you back, Congressman Meuser. How are things going in day 9 of the shutdown?
Hey, Chris, how you doing? Not all that well, right? We didn't ask for this. We certainly didn't vote for it. It is not ideal by any means, a CR, but nevertheless, we were in the midst of passing BBB, the Jobs Cuts for Working Family Act, and which was enormously important. We've got our appropriations bills completed through committee. We still need to bring 9 out of the 12 to the floor. The Senate is doing the same, and we simply needed another 7 weeks to get it done until November 21st. You know, Chris, Tom Cole, one of the most respected people in the House on both sides of the aisle, had an agreement. He's the appropriations chair. He said, "Look, let's have a clean CR," and they said, "Okay, just keep it short term." Okay, 7 weeks. It was agreed to. Then they came up with their initial set of demands, which were even seen by the general public and the media as lunacy. You know, the loony left got the BBB, which we just passed, and add back in $1.4 trillion and never touch PBS or NPR or any other reductions in spending. So that was seen ridiculous. Then they came up with this ACA Affordable Care Act, which was very much the Unaffordable Care Act. It's almost $300 billion more costly a year than, not over a 10-year period, than was originally projected, giving subsidies to people that make over $500,000. No offense to people making over $500,000, but guess what? You don't deserve taxpayer subsidies. Over 33.
Is that, Congressman, could I jump in on that? Because this seems to be, while I know we've talked a lot about illegal aliens getting, Medicaid and subsidies and the like, which is an issue for sure. Is it also true that subsidy issue for high-income earners, the fact that there are people making that kind of money getting taxpayer-subsidized insurance through Obamacare, is that also an issue for Republicans and what Democrats are trying to fight for?
Higher than that, $600,000. And it was passed during COVID. You know, the Democrats thought in their rescue plan that was important. And so they included it temporarily. It was written by them as temporary. Now they want to make it permanent, which of course is what they do. The more they can encroach on people's freedoms, the more they can augment the size of federal government or any government for that matter, is their number one goal. And Chris, what's really disheartening and disgraceful, and I have friends that not necessarily great friends that are Democrats in the House and otherwise, they're lying about it. They're stating things. They're just trying to drive panic and fear mongering. I mean, I'm listening to my local radio up here in Northeast Pennsylvania, and they're talking about how catastrophic, oh my God, if we don't do this now, the ACA premiums are going to go through the roof. Guess what? They went through the roof under Biden, and they're going to continue to go through the roof if Republicans don't step in and fix this so as it's truly or as affordable as it can, and we're not wasting literally tens of billions of dollars going straight to the insurance companies, what the current plan calls for.
President Trump yesterday at the White House was asked about programs that he's prepared to eliminate with Russ Vogt over at OMB if this shutdown continues. Give me number 4 here, Paul. Here's what the president said, Congressman Meuser, and then I'll get your reaction.
Identified programs to eliminate under this shutdown?
Oh, sure. Sure.
Which ones?
We have a lot. I'm not going to tell you, but we'll be announcing it pretty soon. But we have a lot of things that we're going to eliminate and permanently eliminate. You know, one of the things that we have is some advantage, you could say. But because of the shutdown, which I think they made a big mistake, we're able to take out billions and billions of dollars of waste, fraud, and abuse. And they've handed it, on a silver platter. And Russell Vogt, he's a serious person, very serious person, and he's sitting there and he's getting ready to cut things. And this is something that was handed to us by, I assume, Schumer. I just don't know if Schumer has any power anymore.
How legit is this, do you think, Congressman Meuser? Is the president using Russ Vogt as sort of, the sword of Damocles for Democrats, trying to scare them into backing off this thing? Or do you think he means it? He'll make good on this and they'll start slashing if this continues.
I'll tell you what, Russ Vogt, we work with him. I worked with him before in the first Trump administration. I mean, he's a humble guy, but the president's right. He's a strong guy. He's a serious guy, and he's looking to do his job to the best ability that he can do it. We have a $2 trillion deficit, call it $1.8 trillion here. And Chris, when I came into Congress, very, very sadly, and this is disgraceful, we had a budget of spending of $4.4 trillion. Today, it's nearly $7 trillion. It went up like crazy. Yes, during COVID, I signed on to some of it. It was supposed to end. But then Biden comes in and thinks it's a wonderful idea to spend another $7 trillion. So our overall spending is up well over 50%. Well over 50%. But the good news is our revenues are up almost 35%. So even if you factored in inflation, then added some more and add 30% to that 4.5 trillion budget back in 2019, compensating for inflation and everything else, we would be more than $1 trillion less in spending. So, and that's where DOGE came in. That's why I was so behind DOGE. We need to reduce our spending by nearly $1 trillion, and it can be done. Look, we weren't suffering in 2019. It can be done. So Russ Vogt, we're going to look at this closely, and he's going to look at. Here's just an example: SBA. I'm on the Small Business Committee. It had 3,000 employees or 2,800 employees. It now has almost 7,000. And wow. Kelly Loeffler, under the Biden administration, they basically doubled the size. Not just doubled it. I don't even know where they found 3,000 employees to work at the SBA during the course of the Biden years. That's how crazy they inflated the size of government.
May I ask you, Congressman Meuser, and maybe you have no comment on this, but I find it curious, and boy, the left is seizing on it big time, that Marjorie Taylor Greene Monday night, as they write at CNN, handed Democrats a significant arrow in their government shutdown quiver. She became the most prominent Republican to come out strongly in favor of the thing Democrats are demanding, an extension of enhanced Obamacare subsidies. She said she's not a fan of Obamacare, but she said that, she's hearing from constituents, and she says, I'm carving out my own lane. I'm disgusted that the health insurance premiums will double. Not a single Republican in leadership talked to us about this or has given us a plan to help Americans deal with their health insurance premiums doubling. What do you say about her saying this and people on the left very excited about it?
I'll tell you what. You know what? Marjorie Taylor Greene is a real good friend of mine. Not just a good friend, and I respect her. She had a great business career. She and her family built a real nice business, and she's a legislator that cares a lot. I think we all see that. No one's looking to. Well, maybe some are looking to gut the Affordable Care Act, which is proven to be the Unaffordable Care Act, but at least 10% of its corrections need to be made. These permanent levels of subsidies for those making over $500,000, the fact that 33% of the funding from the American taxpayer is going directly to insurance companies as opposed to patients that aren't receiving any services. So it's nothing but profit. It's nothing but cash flow for the insurance companies. I think people, if they realized that and understood that to be the truth, they'd say, yeah, let's fix that. Let's leave all the good.
Are you saying, this just hit me. Are you saying that the Democrats are basically advocating for insurance companies? Is that a fair way to say it? Said another way, we know that the American left celebrated the assassination of a health insurance CEO.
Yeah.
But yet it sounds to me like they're advocating for lining their pockets right now through legislative order.
They are, but they're more interested in keeping the size of government open, and then or the size of government spending continuing the funding. This way, they feel they can control the insurance companies. But the first thing is just to spend, make government bigger, and have the insurance companies bow to them, or else they will pull that money away. And look, they are all about politics. All right, that's maybe a stereotypical, maybe that's an overly broad commentary. Maybe some of my Democrat friends are going to say, hey, that's going too far. But look at the facts, look at the results, everything they talk about. This shutdown is purely political. There's no gain, there's only pain.
Congressman, we are always thrilled that you make time for us from the 9th Congressional District, well served by Congressman Dan Meuser, and you can follow him on X at Rep. Meuser, Meuser. Thank you, Congressman, for your time this morning.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks for having me on.
Hey, good morning, Asheville, North Carolina. Thrilled to have you along. Telephone number 855 Stigall. Thanks for listening throughout North Carolina and all over the country on great affiliate radio stations. You may be enjoying one right now, and I'm so glad that you do. Hope you'll support our great friends and sponsors of the local station that you support and listen to. I just got a nice note, in Philadelphia, our flagship station. I've been talking about my dentist there for years and years and years, and I still do for folks in that particular region of the country. The rest of you who listen, you wouldn't know Bob Spinato, but I've been talking about him for years in Philadelphia and the surrounding area. I just got a lovely note from someone who just met with Bob, my dentist, just the other day, and she wrote me to say what a great experience she had. I love that. And I was just saying to someone through email yesterday, everybody that you hear as advertisers on not just this show, but locally on your local show that you like, on your favorite talk radio station, wherever they may be, if that's how you consume the show, I want you to know that every single person that spends money with this show does so with the expressed interest of reaching you as a conservative. They're trying to reach you, and they care to talk to you. And it's not, I think sometimes that might get lost in the shuffle, but it's a very competitive field out there, obviously, advertising, marketing dollars. And when people decide to spend money with us here, it's because they want to reach an incredibly engaged and informed audience, and they're not bullied or intimidated out of it by popular culture and the political left, who has heckled and harassed and demeaned so many people that have tried to get into the marketing space and talk to you in the past. That's all changing, and there's some really bold people out there in the free market who have decided, no, conservatives are more than half the country. They just elected Donald Trump a second time. We want to talk to that audience. So I want you to know that every time you're listening to an advertiser on this show or your favorite local show, or both, I hope you'll support them if you need their services, because they are just as much a part of this ongoing conversation about the direction of this country as you and me. And I just wanted to take a moment to say thank you to each and every person who spends one nickel on shows like this one, because they help us stay on the air, keep it, by the way, free for you. We don't have to charge you subscription rates or any of that business. The Salem News Channel app, this broadcast, wherever you consume it or podcast, it's all free, thanks to our advertisers. Thanks to people like the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews, with whom we partnered again. If you go to chrisstigall.com, at the top of my homepage, chrisstigall.com, there's a bright red banner, and it says, Israel still needs help. And they do. Because even after yesterday's second anniversary of that brutal Hamas terrorist attack, October 7th, Israelis are still mourning the losses and trying to rebuild their lives, even as new threats and deadly enemies come against Israel again and again. I am proud that this show partners with and will continue to partner with and stand with the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews. I know this audience stands with the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews. Yael Eckstein is the president of the fellowship, and she tells us why the need is so urgent on the ground in Israel.
The needs right now in Israel, as you could imagine, after being attacked and in war for 2 years, they're huge. I've never seen more people calling the fellowship and asking us to provide them with food. The fellowship has needed to open more soup kitchens during this war because so many people are suffering. Because I read the scriptures and God says, feed the hungry, clothe the naked, shelter the poor. And that's exactly what I see here. We need food and we need shelter.
You can tell the people of Israel that you're with them by supporting this effort today. I have a story from the New York Post just yesterday. Anti-Israel protesters chant anti-Semitic slogan from the river to the sea in New York on the 2-year anniversary of Hamas's October 7th attack. Many carrying signs that read, "Long live the Intifada," as the UN is meeting, Gaza is bleeding. From New York to Palestine, starving people is a crime, and on and on and on it goes. This is a very real movement inside, certainly the American left, inside our borders, and I'm sorry to say it's planting its flag in some supposed conservative commentators' audiences, but not here and not in this audience. And so you can tell the people of Israel that you're with them by supporting the Fellowship of Christians and Jews today. Again, that banner right at the top of chrisstigall.com. It says Israel still needs help. Click on it and give what you can. I hope that you will. Any amount you wish. You can also support IFCJ by calling today. If you want to call their 800 number, here it is, 800-982-8811. 800-982-8811 or ifcj.org. All right, and thanks to the generous fellowship supporter out there who for a very limited time has said they will double your impact. If you give, you'll get double if you give right now, thanks to a generous donor at 800-982-8811 or chrisstigall.com. And I thank you in advance. Eric Trump just around the corner. Sit tight for that.
Than anybody.
Hold on a second. What did you just say that you think I'm doing? I'm asking you questions about whether or not if something is wrong, it is also wrong to do the same thing when you get back in power, which certainly happened the first time the administration came in. You went right after Biden, and I don't mean you weren't part of the administration. I'll get to you in a second in terms of what's going on right now. But if you think I'm playing coy, you don't know me as well as you should.
Chris,
I'm not playing coy. I know what happened to me,
Chris,
Eric.
I'm
saying that what is happening now looks like what was done to you. That's why I'm asking the question.
Did we raid Biden's home? Did we try and bankrupt Biden? Did they come after us? Did we weaponize every AG and DA, against Biden? Do we do that against Hunter Biden, who had a laptop from hell, pictures of cocaine, illicit drug use, prostitution? Did we do that? Did we make up a dirty dossier about Biden? Did they try and destroy Biden's marriage? Was any of that true? I mean, did we make up stories that Biden had secret servers in the basement of his home communicating with the Kremlin in Russia? Did we strip Biden off the ballot of multiple states? Did we take Biden off of Twitter and Instagram and Facebook and try and silence his voice so he couldn't communicate? Did we put Biden in a courtroom every single day? 91 felony counts that have all been overturned for my father now, right? For nonsense, to try and keep him off of a campaign trail and to try and destroy his life. Did we do any of that?
If I didn't know any better, I'd say Chris Cuomo was trying to help Eric Trump sell his brand new book, Under Siege, My Family's Fight to Save Our Nation. Wow. That's how you do it, ladies and gentlemen. You take it right back. That's what Democrats, that's what people on the left don't want, but that's what Eric Trump dishes out. He's ready. He's well-studied and knows exactly what weaponized government looks like in the brand new book, Under Siege. And Eric Trump joins us this morning live. We're thrilled to have you, sir. And boy, congratulations. Online, that appearance just blew up. Good morning.
And by the way, that wasn't even the best part. I mean, that was obviously a good part, but I looked over at my assistant who was sitting in the corner, and literally she put her head, her head in her palms as I just went on a tirade. I mean, the great irony of the Cuomo family wanting to tell me that government isn't weaponized is truly, truly shocking, Chris. I mean, they threw Letitia James, the same person who came after us for a $600 million verdict that I got overturned 5-0 right at the appellate courts, went after and threw his brother out of the New York governorship, right? Got him fired from CNN, ended up running for the very same position that she just overturned, right? I mean, she ran for governor after throwing him out of the governorship, right? Destroyed the entire family's life. And now the guy's hardly beating Mandami. In fact, he's not beating Mandami. A communist is literally beating him. when 2 years ago he was probably the heir apparent Democrat to run for president of the United States. And he has the gall to sit there, and it was a respectful conversation, but he had the gall to say that government in this country, to a Trump, who's the most subpoenaed man in American history, isn't weaponized. Give me a break.
It's funny because you saw his brother on The View, I'm sure, this week, or saw the clips of it, where he was telling the ladies on that show, you can't elect Mamdani because if you do, President Trump's going to have to come in and take over New York. That's literally what he's saying. Don't elect Mamdani or Trump will take over New York. I mean, but you guys have an operation there, a business there, so this is still personal to you guys, even though you don't call it home necessarily anymore.
It's horribly personal to me, Chris. I mean, listen, New York's the greatest city in the world. I mean, I wrote the book Under Siege, right? And the whole concept of it is how they weaponized every aspect of New York, every aspect of the state, every aspect of the country to try and destroy our family. I mean, Chris, we had been in the business world for the last 4 generations. I've been in the business world for 25 years. We've never gotten so much as a speeding tickets. We've never had so much as nothing. Run a perfect company. The second my father went down that escalator, they took a bat to our head. And by the way, the first time, as bad as it was in terms of the impeachment, the Russia scandal and everything, like that's really dirty politics. I mean, what Hillary Clinton did, making up dirty dossiers, trying to affect people's marriage, trying to affect people's family, making up stories that we have secret servers in the basement of Trump Tower communicating with Russia. That's dirty. But I mean, the real games came when my father dared to run again, and they didn't want him on that stage. And that's when they took away his First Amendment rights. That's when they silenced him and censored him from every social media channel. You couldn't find Donald Trump on YouTube. That's when the judges started gag ordering him. They kept him locked in a cold courthouse every single day. They did that to our entire family. That was the siege, right? They wanted to arrest us. They wanted to bankrupt us. They wanted to take us down. They were stripping us off of the ballots of states in this country, using justices to subvert the will of the American people. That was their plan. And when all of that failed, they tried to kill my father in Butler. We all watched it on TV. I had my kids on my lap and then a month later or 2 months later, they tried to kill him again in Palm Beach, Florida. This is the siege they put us under, and they put you under that siege, Chris, and they put your viewers under that siege when they debanked them, when they deplatformed them, when they silenced them, when they turned down the dials. If they tried to amplify a message, they went after their churches, and they went after their pastors, and they went after their conservative nonprofit organizations, and they used the IRS as a weapon in this country. They put our party and they put our nation under siege, and that story had to be told.
Eric Trump, again, the book, Under Siege. This is something you must read. When you and I talked about it before it officially came out, my wife heard the interview. She said, we must have that book. I said, yeah, I think because you've laid out the blueprint of what happened to you, and it can never happen again. President Trump's victory, I think, went a long way to at least my comfort level of knowing the country woke up to what you went through. If we hit rewind and you mentioned that first term, were you the word is not naive. I just don't think anybody could have imagined how visceral and vicious politics could be. Did your father, were you shocked at just what people were willing to do to thwart him?
Not only were we naive, but I think the entire country was naive to the games that these people were going to play. But I will say, maybe the one person who actually wasn't naive was my father about it. When he sat us down to tell us he was running for president, he goes, kids, we're going to learn very quickly who our true friends are. I'll never forget, Chris, I'll never forget that statement. We're going to, and then he followed that up with, they're going to come after us in ways that we can't even possibly imagine. 12 minutes after my father took the oath of office, right? I mean, we were at the nation's capital. He had his hand on the Bible. The Washington Post writes a story. This is when the impeachment of Donald Trump begins, right? I mean, he had just had his hand on the Bible. 12 minutes later, the story comes up. This is when the impeachment of Donald Trump begins. And they impeached him, and they impeached him a second time, and they made up the dirt. I mean, they did everything they could, right, to try and kill him, to kill his movement, to cut the head off of the tiger. And every single time they did it, you know what? He got stronger. He got stronger.
Yes,
There's only so many times in life you can cry wolf before people stop believing it. And the American people stopped believing it. And that's why the mainstream media in this country, that's why you're doing so well, but that's why the mainstream media in this country has gone to hell, and no one listens to NBC, ABC, CBS, because they're effectively the de facto PR arm of the Democratic Party, and Americans don't like it.
Today, James Comey is going to be arraigned. I think you probably saw Attorney General Pam Bondi talking about this Operation Arctic Frost and the surveillance of Republican senators, too. Kash Patel is certainly, and Dan Bongino, they've been laying bare everything that we either witnessed or were pretty sure was happening. We now know it was. As you see James Comey arraigned today, your reaction?
You know, I'm an old school guy who believes the FBI, and I mean, so many of the people in the FBI are good friends of mine, like, you know, the gun carriers, not these, you know, bureaucrats at the top, the gun carriers. But, like, I've always been a believer that the FBI agents and the FBI in general should keep, like, you know, planes from hitting buildings in New York City, or, you know, keep the Western way of life safe, keep terrorists off the street, keep, you know, axe murderers away and in jail for the rest of the time. I mean, you know, and yet you have James Comey who's sitting there leaking memos, you know, daily to the New York Times. I mean, I find it wholly unacceptable. I mean, that's not law fighting. That's it's not crime fighting. That's using a massive agency to otherwise, you know, target political opponents. And so when I see, I mean, the least shocking thing I saw all week was the fact that senators were on that list. I mean, they spied on my father's campaign in 2016, and 2017. You know, like, does it shock you if they're willing to spy on a potential candidate for president of the United States, or Republican nominee for president of the United States? Does it surprise you at all, you know, that they're looking at Lindsey Graham and every other senator? Yeah. Does it surprise you that they're spying on them? When I heard about Arctic Frost, it's the least surprising thing I've probably heard this month.
Eric, the book is called Under Siege, My Family's Fight to Save Our Nation. Eric Trump joins us. I asked you this before, and I want to ask it again, because I know this audience cares deeply about it, but I always remind everyone, including myself, no one cares about it more than the president and you and your family in seeing justice done here. Do you have total confidence in the FBI Director, Kash Patel, Deputy Director Bongino, and Pam Bondi as our Attorney General? Do you have confidence justice will be served under this particular leadership? Because, as you know, people just grow impatient and feel like things aren't happening because we don't see it and hear about it. How do you, who's most impacted by this, you and your family, how do you feel these people are doing?
Great. In fact, I'll go beyond that. Unbelievable. And Chris, I mean that. I know Kash very, very well. Kash was there in the darkest moments of 2021. He knows the fight. They went after him. He knows exactly who these people are. He's honest. He's sharp. He's hardworking. I have no doubt. I've known Dan Bongino for 15 years. Dan Bongino is one of the most patriotic, good Americans, hard-charging that you will ever see in your life. He doesn't have a dishonest bone in his body. You better believe they will not corrupt him, and he will get to the bottom of the mess. And Pam Bondi is an amazing person. And again, one that they tried to destroy over and over and over. She had a front row seat to who these people are and what they're capable of doing. And I thought she was great yesterday. I thought she was absolutely great. So do I have faith in those people? I know them all personally. I know their heart. I know their soul. This isn't like, you know, meeting somebody once at a cocktail party. This is like being on, you know, stages with them all across the nation in the worst of times when your phone wasn't ringing. I believe those guys are going to get to the bottom of all of this. And I think there's going to be unbelievable forces against them. You better believe that the swamp is going to lash out against Pam, as you saw yesterday, and Kash and Dan. But they're tough as hell, and I think they're going to do amazing work. And I have total. And by the way, I don't say this about people in Washington, right? I'm not a Washington, D.C. guy. I choose to spend my time outside that city. But I have total faith in these guys. I really do.
Eric, when the time comes that the president, your father, leaves, then you're talking about another race by another Republican. Do you imagine being, with just about 30 seconds to go here, Eric, I'm sorry to rush this answer, but do you think that you will have a role in counseling another campaign since you've been through this and you know the dirtiest of dirty playbooks? Do you think you will be helpful in lending voice to whoever it is that comes next? You and your family.
On November 6th at about 3 o'clock in the morning, I called my father and I said, congratulations. You know, there are no more plays for me to run. There's no more stages for me to be on. You know, I'm retiring from politics, and I love you deeply. I'm going to go run the company. You go run the country. You make us proud. I'll make you proud. And it was a beautiful moment. Listen, I think politics at this point is probably ingrained somewhere in our DNA. And so I'm sure I'll be involved in some way, shape, or form for a very long time to come. But listen, I'm happy we won 2 presidencies, and my father's ultimately saving the republic and doing a great job for the United States of America.
This is the most important book I think Americans can read to fully understand the weaponization of government against its people. Under Siege, My Family's Fight to Save Our Nation. Eric Trump, thank you, my friend.
Thanks, Chris.
Good to be back with you. It's a new shot. Mounted a new camera there. Where is that? Paulie? New Mexico. Ruidoso? I'm not sure how to say that. I'll get the emails. Ruidoso. Thank you, Guy. G-Love just said it's Ruidoso, New Mexico. Never been there. We've got such a budget that we just stick cameras out in the middle of the New Mexican desert. I don't even know, or that's not desert. That's got to be northern New Mexico would be my guess if I'm looking at the geography, right? Because as you get further south, I would imagine it's hotter, more dry. That looks like there's foliage and water. That's not what I associate New Mexico looking like, Fast Eddie. You know what I mean? Although I've only visited Albuquerque and I was a kid, so I don't know. You know what I associate New Mexico with? Turquoise. Fair or unfair? When I think New Mexico, I think turquoise. That's what I remember my visit just dominated the landscape was people selling turquoise things and leather goods. You know, I was big into Indiana Jones when I visited New Mexico, and someone on the street there was selling a real handmade whip, like a long whip. And as a kid, I was just fascinated with it. I remember buying a whip from New Mexico and bringing it home. Parents were thrilled about that. I went with my aunt and uncle.
Okay.
And I came home with a whip from New Mexico. True New Mexico story, ladies and gentlemen. That's my connection to you. Turquoise and whips.
Well, it was a different story for Alec Baldwin. I'm just saying.
That's right.
With all due respect.
That's right. Yeah, I don't think Alec Baldwin probably has happy memories there either. No. Anyway, well, no, mine were happy. Just okay. Anyway, I digress. 855 Stigall is how you reach us today, if you dare, and I wouldn't blame you if you don't. Man arrested outside D.C. church with 200 explosives and a manifesto targeting Catholics, ICE, Supreme Court, and Jews, because, of course, we always like to throw that in for good measure these days. People of faith, are you listening? Manifesto revealing significant animosity toward the Catholic Church, members of the Jewish faith, members of SCOTUS, and ICE facilities. The man arrested outside a Catholic mass that usually kicks off the start of the term for the Supreme Court, found to have 200 explosives, as well as a manifesto that railed against the Catholic Church and the Supreme Court. A guy from Arizona, and I guess also resided in New Jersey for a time, detained on Sunday at the Cathedral of St. Matthew the Apostle, October 5th, while it was holding its annual Red Mass, where a prayer is said that the High Court will perform well in its new term. Police attempting to clear the area ahead of the event. This guy was in a tent at the steps of the church where he told authorities, "You might want to stay back and call the feds. I have explosives." Then when police tried to remove him, the suspect replied, "Several of your people are going to die from one of these." And then he gave several sheets of paper and a manifesto called Written Negotiations for the Avoidance of Destruction of Property via Detonation of Explosives. The manifesto revealed his significant animosity toward the Catholic Church, members of the Jewish faith, members of SCOTUS, ICE, and ICE facilities. He shifted his right thumb over the top of a butane lighter to initiate the lighting action and stated, "You better have these people step away or it's going to be their deaths." What do you suppose he listens to? Serious question. Do you suppose that guy just came to that on his own? What do you suppose he reads? Where do you suppose a guy like that spends his time online? My concern is that there are a number of people consuming programming and spending time online. And again, free speech, God bless America. I'm not suggesting even for a second that any speech should be curtailed at all. I am suggesting that there are healthy, increasingly healthy doses of anti-Semitic, anti-Christian, anti-government, still, I think, primarily from the left, but now increasingly, there are people on our side lending voice to some elements of this in what I believe is a cynical attempt to try to grow their audiences in a highly competitive market where everybody's just trying to get clicks and eyeballs. And I want you to remember that. Everyone in this business is ultimately trying to get you to click, hit play, click like, click follow. Everyone in my business is trying to get your attention. Some of them are doing it through honest, entertaining, straightforward ways. Some of them are doing it through terribly cynical, I think deceptive and devious ways. And I think there are a lot of people who are justifiably angry, lost, hurting, scared. Assign it whatever emotion you want, mentally unstable. And they're looking for scapegoats. And they're looking for a place to channel their rage and their anger. And there are people in my business that are just feeding that with glee, because all they really care about is not rectifying a problem. They care about isolating someone or something to boost clicks and boost downloads and boost views and boost follows. And as long as they get you with that, they don't care what you think. They don't care what problem they've solved or created. They don't care whether they've ratcheted your rage, your concern, your confusion, your worry up to a 10. They don't care. What they got from you is the click, is the follow, is the download, and that's their only responsibility to you. And I hope, I know this audience is smart and sophisticated. I'm not telling you anything you don't already know. I'm also in that competitive space, but I'd like to believe that we're all responsible with that and don't take you for granted and aren't as cynical as thinking, well, all I need is their click or their view or their eyeballs. I don't really care whether I deliver responsible information and leave people to their own devices. I respect you too much for that, frankly. So that's a wrap for another Chris Stigall Show podcast. Thanks for committing to it, listening to it all the way through. You're a fighter. I like that about you. Hope you'll leave it a 5-star review and a written review. Apple Podcasts, Spotify. We'll see you next time here on the Chris Stigall Show podcast.
The Chris Stigall Show podcast.